Hey there, welcome back to Sea Power. Today's video is about how to make a scenario. This is going to be a scenario that I will actually play, so that should make it more interesting. The way that I go about scenarios is a couple of steps. Step 1, I tend to bring up ChatGPT. And I tell ChatGPT what sort of scenario I want. In this case, I gave it a couple of prompts. I said, I need a new scenario. It's going to be set sometime in 1992. Make it Pact versus NATO. The scenario is that the wall didn't come down and the Soviet Navy received improvements. I want it to be a big battle, but credible. Add aircraft, add a Kirov battlecruiser, and I will be playing as Pact. So then ChatGPT says, okay, here's the premise. The location is going to be near the GI-UK gap. The area remains critical for controlling access to the Atlantic. Okay, great. So that's where it's going to take place. Seeing as I already done a couple of missions between Iceland and the UK, I think we're going to go past Greenland here. Or rather, between Iceland and Greenland. This has the added benefit of making it a bit credible that NATO will receive air support. I mean, they got Reykjavik, they got Akureyra. They have a couple of airports that you can plunk down. As for the forces that I have, let's start with those. I am going to be playing as blue. Or actually, I'm going to be playing as red. I'm going to be playing as Soviets. Now, you can decide what color is going to be what side. I tend to follow NATO is blue, Soviet is red. First things first, let's set up a mission name. ChatGPT came up with Iron Divide, and I quite like that. I'm going to say it's about a 4-star mission difficulty, and the description I can just easily copy and paste over from ChatGPT. So there's that. When does this take place? 1992. The reason for this is that in this scenario, or rather 1991, the reason for this is that in this scenario I'm going to be using a couple of mods that modernize the Soviets and the US. So the later, the better. That's how I'm looking at it. Let's go for local time, and this dot over here signifies the local time. So this is now the local period of time. Okay, a couple of options that we have now. Do I place blue or do I place red first? I'm going to go with my own forces. I'm going to place red first. So we're going to add a group, and this is going to be, let's say, the main Soviet group. I'm going to say this group has ships from the USSR. I'm going to say they're heading southwest, so just right-click where they're going to go. And of the vessel type, I'm going to go with, and you might not have all of these ships because I am using some mods, I'm going to add the Kirov 90 cruiser. This is a modernized version of the Kirovs as part of one of the mods that I'm running. So we're going to add that, and I can even say this is going to be the Kalinin. That's going to be one ship. Pact was also given by ChatGPT a couple of Slava-class cruisers. So let's add those in. I'm going to say we have a couple of Slava 90s, or maybe one Slava 90 and one Slava base. So let's say one was modernized, the other one was not. The Marshal Ustinov. They're also going to get one Sovereign many-class destroyer. This is going to be the Buvoy, because at least that's something I can pronounce. We have two Urlois. Two Urloi-class ships. This is going to be Admiral Panteleev and Admiral Zakharov. And then finally we gotta get a couple of Grishas in. That is not a very potent weapon system, but it does make the situation a bit more credible. Because the Grishas are escorts, and mostly geared towards anti-submarine warfare. They don't even get a name, they just get a designation number there. Okay, so that's set up. Now, normally this southwest course transfers over into a heading. This time around it didn't. So I'm going to manually say their heading is, let's say 240. This is going to be important because I'm going to have a formation editor here. And right now you can see that all these ships are kind of plunked down on top of each other. And I tend to just dissect everything and just make sure that I have a bit of an overview. Okay, so what do we have? We got those Grishas. They're going to be on the flanks. But seeing as this group is heading southwest, I'm going to say we're going to go this direction. There. Then we have the... oh, sorry, you're not part of that. You are. We're going to have the Marshal Ustinov, which was, I think, a Slava. You're going to be slightly in front of the Kalinin. This is the Kirov. We're going to have the Buvoy, which is... Actually, let's make them off to the sides. And then we're going to have the Admiral Panteleev, which was, I think, an Urloi. Yeah, that's an Urloi. You're going to be bringing up the rear. And we have the Admiral Zakharov, other Urloi. let's say somewhere towards there. Another bit of an ASW screening. And then we had the Admiral Lobov, which was another Slava. So, hold on, what's the move away again? Oh, you're a Sovrameni. Okay, you're going to be in front. You're going to be off to the side. This arrow, just disregard that, because we're heading southwest. At least that's the objective. Speed, I had 2/3. Yeah, that works for me. And then when it comes to flight deck, I can already have a couple of helicopters airborne. I'm not 100% whether this works or not, because so far I haven't really had it work. But okay, I guess, oh, there it is. Right, okay. So I'm going to say this helicopter here from the Kalinin is going to be airborne. And then you click on the map, like, where is it then? Well, it's over there. So this helicopter is basically housed on the Kirov, but it's already airborne. It's at an altitude of 500 feet heading southwest. Okay, I'm not sure exactly where that came from. You are gonna... Okay, that feature might not be working just yet. Let me try that again. Open the flight deck, launch a helicopter, plunk it down there. This helo. Yeah. Okay, I'll not give the helicopters any orders yet, because they're still a bit bonked. Okay, so we got a helicopter, let's say, Kirov... Sorry, Kalinin helo. What's its loadout? Well, ASW. I also have the option of going with anti-ship, but again, this is because of a mod that I'm running, so you might not have that option. Heading, same course as the rest of the fleet, 245, 240, something like that. They didn't actually copy my order. Let's save the mission as well. Save as Operation Iron Divide. Save. Sometimes it helps to load up your own mission, because that way immediately you can see these formations getting settled. And this might also... Yeah, there we go. Now we got the big arrow. So I can just put these ships into the positions where I actually want them to be. There. Okay, so that's one. Now, what sort of range are we operating at? This is a very important element in your planning, because it really will determine what sort of a battle you're going to have. I can, for example, say I want to have a range, let's say a starting range of about 200 miles. This is going to mean that under normal conditions, Pact is going to massively outrange NATO. And yes, I'm saying under normal conditions, because some mods add longer range weapons. The Pact weapons in this mod, for example on that Kirov 90, are even better. They, actually no, they're not that much better. They get the SSN 19, which still has a 319 nautical mile range, so yeah, you're definitely outrange NATO. However, I'm also going to add some NATO forces, which will also be in range. This is where realism can become a bit of a problem, or at least where it can become a factor. Because you could make the case, well, if NATO, for example, has a group all the way over there, so I'm going to say that's a blue group, range 630 miles. If this is an aircraft carrier group, they can launch aircraft, and the Soviets cannot do anything in return. So that is a very important consideration. Do you want the Soviets to be able to get the first shot off? And do you want to be, if you're playing NATO, a bit on the defensive? Or do you want to be offensive as Pact and potentially have a NATO force that has to close the distance? In this case, I'm going to do a bit of both. I'm going to say there is an aircraft carrier here. So let's specify that as a US aircraft carrier. It's going to be a Nimitz. And that's a Nimitz 89, so it's a modernized version. This has to do with the NTU mod. There we go, it's the Eisenhower, and that's heading northeast. This is going to also get some escorting vessels, of course, because you don't just plunk an aircraft carrier down. I'm going to say they're escorted by, let's say, an Adams class. You can leave this as unit name Adams, or you can specify what ship you want. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to say there is also a Belknap class missile cruiser, the Fox. They're going to have a couple of escorts in the form of the improved Oliver Hazard Perry. I'm going to say it's a 1989 variant, and it's going to be a base variant. They don't all have to be super ships, right? Not every ship would have received an upgrade yet. I'm going to say this is NATO CVBG carrier battle group. And this formation, as you can see, it's not exactly updated yet. So this is again when I tend to just save the mission and then reload the mission. And that immediately fixes the formation here. Because now I can see, okay, you're heading northeast. Again, split up all the ships. We got the FFGs out front. That is the escorting Oliver Hazard Perrys. We got the guided cruiser behind. We have the Berkeley over there. That's the destroyer. That's going to be in front. And let's make it a bit more credible and say that they're also going to get a fleet tender. So something that's going to be capable of supplying the ships. Let's say an Angle-class fleet auxiliary. It's going to be the Bellatrix. The Bellatrix will stay behind there. Now, when it comes to these aircraft from the carrier, I want to have quite a lot of aircraft airborne. So we're going to open the flight deck. I'm going to say they're going to have a flight of, let's say, A6s up there. And ship heavy. How many? Well, ideally all of them. I'm going to make it a flight of 10. And I'm going to plug them down there. I hope this works. No, it does not. They somehow start out all the way from over there. I'm not sure if they'll follow that precise path, but we'll see. There we go. Ah, they updated it. Perfect. Does that also work for you? Ah, yes, it works. Perfect. Okay, so this is the, let's say, the strike package. What was it? It was not the Nimitz that I placed down? No, the Eisenhower. Okay, so Eisenhower strike package. This is going to cause a bit of a problem for the Pact forces. I am, however, going to move things along a little bit. So I'm going to say the Pact forces, or the Soviet group and the NATO group are going to be a bit closer together. The reason for this is that sometimes missions can take a long time. The longer you take, most of the time, the slower the game will run. In this case, I'm still going to be in missile range at 344 miles, but not all of my ships will be in missile range. And this is going to mean that the Soviet forces they're a bit an advantage, they're a bit at a disadvantage. Because this way, oh, hold on, I need to remove that. They're a bit at an advantage because I have missile range, but they don't have necessarily eyes on the CVBG over there. So this is going to cause potential issues. However, I don't really want this battle group to get directly involved. Let's also launch another group. Flight deck here. I'm going to say they're going to have an E2C up. That's a Hawkeye. This is also going to go this way. No. You. Come on. So that's the E2C. And this is going to be at their altitude of 30,000 feet. Medium speed is fine. Recon loadout is the only option you have. It's basically their spotter. And of course, they will have launched a couple of F-14s. So, again, flight deck. We're going to say they have F-14s in the skies. They might have 2 patrols of 2. Air-to-air long range, sounds about right. And this group is going to go here. These are going to be at their cruise altitudes, doing medium speeds. Because they need to kind of keep up with strike package, and they're faster by default anyway. So this is F-14C, don't mind my spelling. Patrol, sorry, B. Patrol 1. And I'm going to do this again. The reason why I'm launching it from the carrier is that so once these aircraft are empty, they will come back to the carrier. If you don't do that, they will not have a home base. So if you just add them in like this, they will not have a home base. So these boys are going to go here. They're just kind of escorting the strike package in. So F-14B Patrol 2. And seeing as I don't have plans for any of my own aircraft, I think this is going to be fine. Now, there is going to be another group. There is going to be another group for NATO. That's the group that I really want the player to defeat. I'm going to say add vessel group. They're going to be here. They're heading northeast. They're a blue group. And this is the Iowa battle group. So Iowa BG. They're not going to get an aircraft carrier because that would be a bit too strong. They will, however, get an Iowa with the VLS modification. Again, this is part of a mod. This is going to be Iowa itself with a loadout of multi-mission. This is going to give them... Hold on, is this the right loadout? Yeah, I think this is the right loadout. This is the multi-mission one with 122 surface-to-air missiles, 61 land attack missiles, and 61 Tomahawk and ship missiles. So that ought to be plenty. If you want to go strike, you can, which will give them well over 1,000 anti-ship missiles. And the anti-air warfare gives them 968 VLS. So 968 surface-to-air missiles, which is a bit much. I'm going to say you're going to get one of those. You guys are also heading this way. And of course they're going to get escorted. They're going to get a Ticonderoga. Because I want this thing to be both operating offensive and defensive. It's going to be a VLS mode. It's going to be the Monterey. For no particular reason. What else did ChatGPT think of? Arleigh Burke destroyers. Yeah, sadly I don't have those. They're going to get 2 Perrys to make sure they can defeat them. Or, well, they can't defeat themselves. They can defend themselves against such things as my missiles as well as submarines. Let's say one of those and one modernized, which is going to be the Gallery. Then we're going to have one Spruance class destroyer. Because those things are also getting a buff from the NTU mod. It's going to be a Spruance VLS. It's going to be the Nicholson. Formation order. Let's go back, save it, yes. Load it back up. This has to do with the arrow again in the formation. There, formation enter. Iowa battle group. Divide everything up. That's the destroyer. That's the frigate. That's the other frigate. And there is the cruiser. Cruiser is going to be again operating behind. We're going to have the destroyers. Or rather, let's make these guys a bit bigger. As if they were having pickets like this. There. Okay, so that's them done. Speed ahead 2/3. No, speed ahead full. Their mission is to kill my forces. However, we're not done yet placing additional units. So, what else is going to be up here? Well, the NATO forces are going to get a Los Angeles class submarine. The LA is going to be a bit closer. Let's say about here. Which would still... Well, actually, if I place them here, they're not really going to be that much of a factor. Because they're going to be 200 miles out. And unless they decide to launch long-range cruise missiles, they're not that much of a threat. So I'm going to put them closer to the player. I'm going to say this is a range of about 80 miles. Which will, in a few hours, not mission start, but a few hours, make them a threat. Nation, USA... Going to be a Los Angeles... Well, let's give it a flight 2. It's going to be a very deadly threat. It's going to be the Newport News. Heading that way, ahead 1/3. And they really don't have to move that much. They're just going to be basically there as a roadblock. A very, very dangerous roadblock at that. Be advised, if you're adding submarines, you're going to have to figure out what the sea state is going to be. The more... let's say noisy the sea state, by increasing it all the way up to 10, the more difficult it'll be to detect submarines, and this works both ways. I'm also going to give the Soviets a submarine. So this potentially is going to be the first engagement. Let's measure up the distance here. Just 35 miles. So, let's say 35 miles, they're going to get a Russian submarine. And what type of submarine is that going to be? Victor 3 is a very capable submarine. We also got the Alpha, which is... Well, it tends to be noisy. The K-254, ahead 1/3. And you are going to be going... I already had a waypoint for you, apparently. Okay, you're going to be going there. So this is a K-254. And now I'm going to mix things up a little bit. I'm going to add another NATO submarine, heading northeast. The reason for this... Actually, let's make it a UK sub. I got the Swiftsure, again, courtesy of a mod. It's going to be the Scepter... And I'm going to add a random spawn chance of 50% to both. So with this chance modifier here, there's a 50% chance that they'll spawn. There's a 50% chance that they will not spawn. So I might know that there is potentially a submarine or 2 here. I will have to do ASW operations. I need to do my anti-surface warfare, no, anti-submarine warfare. If I neglect that, I might lose my group. But there's no guarantee that there will actually be a sub there. And if you are, if you are going blind into a mission, there's a pretty decent chance that you won't even know whether there is going to be a submarine at all. Unless I add that into the briefing. Now, we're going to have the Soviet submarines also be randomized. So I'm going to say you get a 50% chance to get one sub. And you might get another sub going there. I can say what their depth is going to be. These guys are going to be below the layer. These are going to be above the layer. My submarine, the K-254, is going to be very deep. And you're going to be... Oh, I don't know. I first got to add a sub, of course. It's going to be USSR sub. You're going to get an Alpha. The K316 for no particular reason. Ahead 1/3. Careful with the speed. You can make a submarine go all ahead flank, but it will potentially get you detected. So that is a bit of a concern. This is the Alpha with a 50% chance to spawn. There. So now we're getting somewhere. Now we have the surface and subsurface assets deployed. I can now also get some air support. So in this case, where would my aircraft take off? Probably all the way from over here. And this is where the map is a bit deceptive. Because, of course, the world is round. Yes, believe it or not. And this means that the aircraft don't actually have to fly 3,000 miles. They actually have to fly a little less. I'm going to say we're going to get these things in from over here. Heading this direction. These are going to be USSR Tu-22s with an anti-ship. Long range, because it's a heck of a long flight. There's going to be 4 of those birds in there. And really, they're not going to make that much of a dent. Simply because these guys are just packing 4 missiles and the NATO forces will just swat them out of the sky. But it's going to make it a bit more credible. So let's say there's going to be Tu-22M2. I'm going to say save group. Tu-22M2X4. The reason why I'm saving this group is because I'm going to add a couple more groups. So I can now load a group. I'm going to say add group. There. This is going to make it easier to add several flights of aircraft. These will have taken off roughly at the same time. So they're also roughly going at the same rate. There's going to be a 3rd flight there. And here we go. Did they actually copy it? No, they just... Yeah, they did. Okay, they're all Tu-22s M2, so now I have 12 anti-ship missiles. It's going to make it a bit more impactful for the Soviets to use. Next up, what are we going to get? Well, ASFs, I don't think so. It would probably be too far away. NATO might have, however, some P3s operating here. So let's say there's a P3 for blue that has just taken off. It's going to be a USA P3 per Orion. ASW loadout, 25,000. Actually, no, they just took off. Let's say 6,000 feet heading northwest. And there's already one which is on station here. So there's going to be another one operating there. Blue. USA P3 Orion. ASW loadout. This one's going to be close, dropping 1,000 feet. Missions, they don't really do anything, so just don't bother with those until we get word from the devs that they actually do work. I'm going to give these guys a sort of patrol area by just adding a bunch of waypoints. If there is a submarine detected, in this case one of the reds, this should get involved. P32, this is P31. P31. Okay. Next up, what else do we give the allies, or rather the NATO forces? We can give them a couple of additional aircraft coming out of Reykjavik, which in this case could be, I guess, a couple of F-15s. I guess those were stationed there. Not 100% on that. F-15Cs. They're going to be, I don't know, the Guerrillas. Excuse me if they're not the right type. Air-to-air long range, because they have a long range to fly. 37,000 feet altitude. They might not make that much of an impact on the battle, but I think it will make it interesting. Especially since you got those Tu-22s coming in. So you're going to have to play a bit of cat and mouse with those F-15s and your bombers. And if you are going to get chased down by the F-15s, well, good luck. You might find that it gets a problem. Now, I did make one mistake, actually. I should have added a land unit. This is going to be the the Icelandic Air Base. Where did they place that? All countries. Reykjavik Airport. Here. Reykjavik Air Base. That one. That one. Add. This is going to be not a red, but a blue force. I'm going to remove the F-15s. I'm going to remove the P3. I'm going to remove the other P3. I'm going to say this is Reykjavik Air Base. Apologies if it's not exactly in the right location. Flight deck. Oh, I can actually give them B-52s. That would be interesting. Assigned 4 to a wing, air-to-air long range, call sign Joker, starting here, flying northwest. No, don't worry. There. Altitude, as set. Speed, medium. They're not in a particular hurry. Flight deck. I can give them a couple of B-52s, but that'll be a challenge. Yeah, why not? Let's give them 2 B-52s, because apparently the Soviet forces were already detected. So this is going to give you another vector to worry about. And this is going to be the B-52G group. 2 of them, altitude 37,000 feet. Nation, I don't care, USA. Oh, sorry, nation override. Yeah, never mind, it's fine. These are going to be B-52s. Hold on, remove that. Again, flight deck, B-52s, there. Northwest. Strike, heavy loadout. But that should be, and ship heavy. So they're going to get 24 harpoons between the two of them. That will be a challenge. B-52Gs, X2. And you guys were F-15C, X4. There. Next up. What else are we going to get? I can give them a jammer or an electronic warfare aircraft. I'm not sure if the AI uses it, but it should at least make it interesting. You're also going to be at cruise altitude, electronic warfare bird. Yeah, go. What else do they have? They got more A6s or A7s. They got an E2C. They might have launched that. This is going to be out at cruise altitudes. Basically doing a couple of circles here. You really don't want your E2Cs to go off on patrol. Or go off gallivanting around an enemy formation, because that's generally not where they should be. Anything else? RA5. They could have launched helos, but they probably would be too far away. Like, what's the range between Reykjavik? Well, it's going to be 270 miles. I guess a helo could be launched. I'm just not sure if it's credible. Okay, so that is that done. We'll remove some of these markers. You are going to be a UK Swiftsure. Nation overrides. United Kingdom. There you are. I had 1/3. Don't rush it. Okay, what else do we need? Well, we could dress up the mission a bit by giving the area a couple of ships that you ideally don't want there. Civilians. Civilian ships. I'm going to say there's a car carrier here heading that way. Make sure you put it on neutral, or you're going to be the proud owner of a new car carrier. I'm going to say there is another ship here heading that way. I'm not sure if the civilians would operate this high above the Icelandic area. I think they might be passing south of it, but whatever. We'll just throw in some civilians to make it more interesting. A head full. I'm going to say there is also... And this is where I'm going to cheat a little bit by not having to place down as many vessels. I'm going to say there's a fishing boat. I'm going to say there's 4 or 5 of them. Say formation editor. And just change this up to like 20 miles. So these guys are not in any particular formation, but this way you can just plonk down a whole bunch of fishing boats. And kind of make it interesting to see where they're going to go. They're going to be doing, I don't know, I had 1/3. This will mean that you don't have to deploy 5 fishing boats by just going group add, group add. It's just one easy go. Let's say this is fishing X5. This is going to be, I don't know, Civ 1, Civ 2, stuff like that. There. What else are we going to add? I think it's time for triggers. Triggers are basically things that happen in the mission. In this case, I'm going to say I want to have a trigger which is going to be the win condition. So this is win condition red. The mission objective, conditions complete, conditions. What do you need to do to get your win? Add a condition. Win condition red. It's a bit clunky, but it works. Unit destroyed. I want to have a unit get destroyed. And what do I want destroyed? Well, we're going to go and select the group of the Iowa. I'm going to say the entire Iowa battle group's been destroyed. That's the objective. Once upon that, you can say this is going to be exit mission, but I don't really want that. Minimum unit type, all of them. There's 5 of them there. Now I have so much firepower that I can extend the mission into also going for the NATO carrier battle group. This is up to you. In this case, I think by the time that you'll have sunk this battle group, the Iowa, you are potentially going to already be looking at a fairly slow game. But let's just add another win condition. So let's say this is win condition red 1. Win condition red 2. And I'm going to say sync NATO CVBG. That's the condition. What do you need to do? You need to sync something. What do you need to sync? You need to sync the Eisenhower. Just the Eisenhower is enough, because the rest of them are basically escorts trying to keep everything alive, trying to keep the carrier going. So if you can sync the carrier, great. Is this going to be a victory condition? Possibly. For red. Does it exit the mission? Yeah, let's say that's going to be exiting the mission. And I'm going to go back to the other win condition for red. So it's a victory trigger for red. Now, if you just kill this, the mission is going to go done. But I don't want that. So I'm going to say there is going to be a red message. This is congratulations, comrade. You have sunk the... Which condition was this? The Eisenhower. The USS Eisenhower. The NATO forces on the Atlantic are severely weakened now. Mission complete. Okay, so that's one. Oh crap, that's the wrong condition. Because this is the Iowa one. Whatever. We'll just copy this, cut it out, and go to the other condition. The other victory objective here. So this is where you kill the Eisenhower. The message that you're going to get is this. There we go. And on this one, on red 1, you have sunk the USS Iowa. This deals a major blow to the NATO morale. However, there is still a NATO CVBG. I'm not going to say CVBG for the simple reason that not everybody might know what that is. Carrier Battle Group Southwest, actually west of Iceland. West of Iceland. Eliminate this threat for total, let's say total Atlantic dominance. There. That's going to be a condition of victory for red. No, actually it is not. So the Iowa sinking is basically phase 1. Phase 2 is sinking the carrier. The carrier is now how far away? 400 miles. So if you pick up the carrier somehow, you'll be able to get some missile shot at it. But picking up that carrier is going to be difficult. That is not going to be an easy mission. Unless you rush a submarine forward. But that comes with a whole host of issues because you might run into either the Newport News or the Swiftsure. If you have submarines at all. Because that's not a given, right? You got a 50% chance to spawn the Alpha and you have a 50% chance to spawn this one. Which also means that there's a 50% or there's a chance, I'm not going to go in statistics, that you'll not have any sub. Good luck with that. We're also going to set up a briefing. This is going to be mission briefing. So, I'm going to say to ChatGPT, write the briefing for the player. Inform them that they need to sink the USS Iowa west. I'm not going to say where it is. I'm going to say they need to sink the USS Iowa. And break into the Atlantic. Enter. Now, ChatGPT is going to spit out a whole briefing. I'm going to already set up what the condition is. I'm going to say briefing timer. And this is almost a misnomer because it's going to be time. When? Well, right at the start of the mission. So condition seconds. This is how many seconds it takes for this condition to fire. None. I want this to happen right at the start of the mission. And ChatGPT is currently churning out a mission briefing. I'm going to say, what do we need? I don't need any further conditions. I just need a message for the red side. Mission briefing. Commander, the time has come. Blah, 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 blah. I think it's still processing. Yeah, here we go. Ta-da! There's the briefing. Okay, this way, I don't have to type up the whole thing myself. I do have her go through it and make it a bit more legible, because sometimes they just plonk everything down. For example, just adding a couple of break lines helps. And then I tend to go and just add a whole bunch of equal signs. Mission objectives. Primary objective. Destroy the USS Iowa, break through the lines. Secondary objectives. Eliminate high-value targets. This is not strictly an objective, but I do like it. Eliminate submarines. And then enemy forces. That's basically part of the intel brief. They're going to have a surface fleet, which is the USS Iowa. And there's no escorts, including Oliver Perry and a Spruance destroyer. Good. If it would have mentioned that there was an Oliver, sorry, if there was an Arleigh Burke, which isn't in the game, then I would have added that, or edited that out. There's also a submarine. Expect at least 2 submarines patrolling in the area. And a Swift Shore class submarine. These submarines are likely positioned to ambush your fleet. Proceed with caution. This is an interesting bit. Intel can be wrong. It doesn't mean that there has to be a submarine, let alone 2. Sometimes there can be none. Sometimes there can be, I don't know, 5 if the mission designer feels like they're gonna mess with you. Air support. NATO has deployed P-3 Orions for anti-submarine operations and recon. Sea Harriers may also be providing. Nope. I'm going to say there are no Sea Harriers available. So I'm going to update that in ChatGPT. There are no Sea Harriers. There are no Su-27 flankers in the mission either. Now, I, as the mission creator, know that there's going to be B-52s coming in, but I'm not going to inform the player of that. I don't want them to know. I want that to be a surprise. I want them to go, holy, what is that? So, let's get 2 Udaloys there, 2 Grishas, submarine support. We don't have an Akula. At this time, it is unclear whether the submarines are in the area. If they are, they will make contact and follow your orders. This is a sort of way for me to catch the option that there are no Soviet submarines, so that I don't have to confuse the player where they go, hold on, where's my submarine support then? There might not be submarine support. So there's no flankers. Air support is actually the 12 Tu-22s. Let's add the brake line again. Operational considerations. Again, add a brake line, because this does get compressed. Submarine threats. Deploy your ASW assets and neutralize submarines early. Failure to address this threat could leave your fleet vulnerable. Yes. Use your Tu-22s strategically to weaken NATO escorts. Protect them. No, say this line does not make sense. Timing and coordination. There. The Iowa will likely stay at the center of the NATO formation. Use your submarines and long-range missiles to force their escorts to spread thin, exposing their flagship. ROE. Engage all NATO forces encountered. Ensure civilian vessels are not harmed. Protect your flagship. Commander's intent. The operation is pivotal. NATO blockade threatens to strangle our ability to project power into the Atlantic and beyond. The destruction of the Iowa will send a clear message of pact dominance and secure our fleet's advance. The motherland trusts in your skill and determination. Strike decisively, coordinate your forces effectively, and show NATO the strength of the pact navy. For victory in the revolution. Good hunting, Commander. So that's the whole briefing. I'm now going to copy the whole thing. I'm going to plunk it back into ChatGPT so ChatGPT knows exactly what I'm informing the player of. So, I'm going to say, here is my updated briefing. And this is something that I'm not showing you on screen because it's just ChatGPT. It's making sure that ChatGPT knows exactly what I've informed the player of and what I've not informed them of. Although, of course, ChatGPT does not know that there's B-52s and F-15s down there, which can be rather important for it to know. At this point, I think the mission is mostly done. You can still add some random elements into it. For example, if you want to be fairly nasty about it, you can set a trigger such as, let's say, submarine breaks down. But this, in this case, is not ideal. Here is what you could do with it. I'm going to say I'm going to add a condition, sub breakdown, timer. So in this case, it's going to be a time, let's say after, oh, I don't know, 885 or 850 seconds, which is just shy of 15 minutes. In this case, the K254 is going to have a task force swap. Swap units to task force neutral. What this means is that this submarine is suddenly no longer going to be under your command. And in this case, you could simulate that a submarine has, for example, a critical failure. I don't know, the torpedo tubes won't open. Call it something stupid. And in this case, the K254 is going to go neutral and will no longer listen to your commands, will no longer provide sensor information, which will significantly hamper your efforts. This is something you can do, but in this case, I'm not going to. What is that? Not sure, haven't seen that one before. Okay, let's remove that trigger. What I'm also going to do is prepare this mission to be played as blue. So in this case, I'm going to add a trigger. I'm going to say blue victory. What does blue need to do in order to win? Well, blue needs to destroy some units. What units? Well, I want you to destroy... Where is the Soviet group? Main Soviet group. Here. I want you to destroy the Kalinin and the two Slavas. That has to go. I want you to destroy all three of them. And it's going to say for blue, congratulations, Captain. You have succeeded in eliminating an extremely dangerous surface combatant from the, I don't know, from the board. Let's just put it that way. The destruction of this ship will make it significantly easier for NATO forces in the area. And that is going to be an exit mission for blue, so it's going to be a victory trigger for blue. Done. This way, you can play blue forces by just swapping this player side from red to blue. The blue side, however, does not get a mission briefing just yet. So I'm going to say blue briefing. How are we going to do that? We're going to go with a timer, so blue briefing timer. Actually, I can just use the same one that I already have. Mission briefing. Because this will fire for blue and red at the same time. But I just need to plonk down a blue message. Prepare the mission. I'm talking to ChatGPT. Prepare the mission to be played as blue. Sorry, as NATO. Write a briefing for the NATO, for the player. And now they're going to spit out, ChatGPT, they're going to spit out a whole briefing for the blue side, which I can then immediately enter there. And this is also why it's important that they know what the red side knows, because that way they don't copy over information that's not there. For example, I never mentioned that there were Harriers, so I plunked that back into ChatGPT, and now ChatGPT knows, oh, okay, there aren't any Harriers, so I don't have to inform the blue player that there are Harriers, because there aren't any. Okay, they're done. Mission briefing, la-di-da-di-da, all the way to commander's intent. So, plunk that down. Again, do a bit of editing. I'm going to say commander. Soviet-led pact forces major naval operation North Atlantic, aiming to break through the GIOK gap. Their objective is clear. Establish dominance and disrupt NATO's ability to project power. Lead formidable, blah, blah, blah. Add that break line again. Mission objectives. Primary objective. Defend GIOK gap. Prevent them from reaching Atlantic. Secondary objective. Eliminate Kirov. Destroy or neutralize pact forces, submarines, enemy forces. Surface fleet. Kirov. These ships are equipped with advanced missile systems, submarine threats. Expect aggressive torpedo missile strikes from these subs. Air support. Intelligence, backfire bombers. See, this is the backfires that I've added. And that's also what ChatGPT recommended that I do. Friendly forces. Your task force. Surface fleet. USS Iowa. USS Princeton. Nope, it's not the Princeton. What did we give NATO again? We gave them the Monterey. So, where are my briefings? Mission briefing. Close to conditions. Here's the blue. The Monterey. Again, I would recommend adding break lines between your mission or between your ships because that just makes it easier to read. We have a couple, let's say, various Oliver Hazard Perry class frigates will aid in missile defense and ASW. And we finally had, what was that? The Nicholson. USS Nicholson. Spruance class. Spruance class, there. Will provide assistance in whatever role you see fit. There. Submarine support. Again, we don't exactly know if these submarines are there. So, I'm going to give them pretty much the same message. Submarine threats, blah, blah, blah. That's enemy forces, friendly forces here. At this time, it is unclear whether friendly submarines are in the area or not. If they are, there. So basically we don't know exactly where our submarines are. Air support. A raid. Well, it's not strictly a raid. A flight of B-52Gs has taken off from Iceland to strike on the Soviet battle group. The USS Eisenhower has already launched a strike package which is underway to the north. That's going to be it. There. Operational considerations. Manage your resources. This is where you have to add another one of those break lines, and I tend to just copy that over because I want to have them all be the same length. Air support. There. Operational considerations. Manage your resources. Submarine coordination. Counter the air threat. Expect multiple waves of T-21 bombers. Yes. Protect the Iowa. ROE. Engage all on site. Avoid collateral naval. Avoid collateral civilians. Kill this. Battle's pivotal. Blah, 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 blah. Done. Okay. Copy that over. Here is the updated briefing. Da-da-da. So, now we're getting somewhere. This is in about 50 minutes how I would build a mission like this. And initially, you just start with one building block. You start with your own forces, the Soviet forces. Then you add the blue forces. Then you add civilian forces, potentially. You add a bit more, whatever comes to mind. For example, I could still have a neutral submarine here. Why the hell would you have a neutral submarine? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a French one. A French submarine would be a little... What? Fine, it's a German boat. It's a Type 206. They somehow made it all the way over there. And this submarine could get triggered into action by saying, German sub joins the fight. Something like that. So in this case, I will say it's going to happen German sub timer. Generic, no, it's going to happen after a time, which is going to be 1800 seconds, so in about half an hour. What happens? Units in the group. What happens? Well, we're going to have a task force swap to blue. So in this case, the action unit is that German sub. This means that the German sub will suddenly join the blue 4. A German submarine has reported in and is now available for your deployment. So in this case, you could suddenly have a German submarine join the fight. And this is how you can keep adding these almost building blocks, Lego blocks, to your missions. You can set them up exactly as you want. Given the, let's say, the updated threat that I have now provided to the Soviets, I'm going to say this is a 5-star mission. It might not be as bad, but keep in mind, both the NATO forces and the Pact forces, with all the mods that I'm running, which are linked down below in the description, are going to be substantially dangerous, so be aware. Okay, let's save the mission again. Yes, I'm going to play it as red in this case, and just see if the mission briefing will fire. And here we are. The mission has started, although it took a fair time. This is the mission briefing for red, because we're playing the red side. And as such, you're going to get the red mission briefing, so destroy the Iowa. The game doesn't actually inform you about the fact that there is a battle group with a carrier to the southwest, because I don't want the player to know that. The mission initially is to sink the Iowa, and we'll see after that what the player is going to do, and if they have enough forces. Whether or not you want to make that a victory condition is up to you. In this case, I'm going to say if you have the Iowa eliminated, you already have, let's say, a sort of a victory, but if you can also eliminate the aircraft carrier, you can get a bigger victory. Do you have enough weaponry for that? That's the question. It's going to depend exactly on how you deploy your weapons. You got the 20 SSN-19s aboard these Kirov. You also have Lobov, which carries 16 SSN-12Bs with another range of 435 miles. Of course, you got 2 of those. The Buvoy, mostly focused on defense, but they do have a couple of SSN-22s. Again, with the 335 mile range, was not as good, but these missiles hit very hard. And all the way in the back, we still have the Panteleev and the Zakharov. So again, you do have some capability of 14 Bravos, but it's not great. The rest of your firepower is going to have to come out of your, in this case, they didn't spawn, submarines. So yeah, in this situation, I think defeating Iowa might be possible, defeating the whole surface battle group might not be. We can already see some radar signatures coming up, so that's working as intended. And every time that you try this mission, you might get a different type of spawn, at least when it comes to the submarines. So, that is the whole way that I set up a mission and a mission briefing. All the triggers, basically all the steps involved. If there are any steps that are unclear, please let me know down below in the comments, and I shall see if I can clarify that in a comment, and if not, I'll potentially do another video on it. Hope it was useful, hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit like so more people can find the video easier. You know how the whole algorithm stuff works. And otherwise, I shall see you on a different video where you can actually see me play this mission. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon for more.